Hey folks, got a late start today, and then that was exacerbated by there was a wreck on LA 10, which is 2-lane road, no shoulders, and it's a wreck where I had a wreck at the same place. Let's see, 25 years ago, I got T-boned by a little sports car in my grandfather's truck. Somebody got T-boned today, and so now there's log trucks and gravel trucks backed up. And today's my last day filming down here on the farm, I think. Tomorrow, I catch a plane to a very different location. I'm going to New York City to see my oldest son. And he lives 3 blocks from Central Park. Today, let's see, I got up, did a couple jobs for Mama, and then I was thinking, well, I'll go to the farm, and then I decided on where I could. So, it's the last day on my grandfather's farm, which has grown as we bought more land. I think it was 260 acres when he bought it back in the 30s. Now it's about 400 acres. It's shifted from growing things like cotton, corn, cattle, 3 C's, to now it's growing pine trees. And also, as I showed you yesterday, right here, we're producing clay on one of those clay hills that I showed you. Today, even though I'm gonna get eaten up again, for you fair viewers, I'm gonna take you down to the river. Not all the way to the river, but it'll be a landscape that's been shaped by the river, where there's a series of interlocking bayous or sloughs, and there's a really neat forest back there that I think I can get there without getting too wet and muddy. And maybe I'll find some snakes today. So, we got about a mile to the east to go, and then we'll get in some shade because we'll be in a bottomland hardwood forest that is right along the river. And it might be kind of fun. So I'll see you in a little bit. And I'm going to start here at this little pond because it helps you understand the economics of a post-farming farm. My dad and mom, when they took over control of it, they were looking at, well, how do they manage it and not lose money on it, but not work too hard on it, not live on it. And one thing my dad tried was gravel mining. And this pond is a result of a gravel mining operation. It's back from the river because, as I said on the river installment, the Amite River, through part of its course, it's designated a wild and scenic river. And that includes the portion of the river that forms the eastern boundary of our farm. So we can't do a gravel operation right next to the river. But gravels are found, and we're 500 yards from the river right now. And that's because the Amite River has meandered back and forth across its floodplain and deposited gravel. And so my dad got into an agreement with a gravel guy to do a small scale that would be legal. And part of gravel mining is digging a hole to get to the gravel. And when you dig the hole, especially in this floodplain, you hit the water table pretty early. So you see that water table, we're only down about 3 or 4 feet. So we're doing a little forest walk today in an extremely low elevation floodplain, and we're very close to the river's main channel, the river being the Amite River. we're going to be leaving planted pine trees and dipping into a bottomland hardwood forest. Called bottomland because it's low elevation. It's low elevation because the meandering stream has scoured out low elevations. Ugh, look at all this junk I gotta walk through. Let's see here. And so, I'm fortunate I'm not allergic to poison ivy. My brothers are, and they're much better at identifying it. Down here, where we got a canopy, which provides shade. I'm always looking for shade. Provides, man, there's spiders all over. Man, I'll be walking through spider webs for the next hour. Provides shade that keeps down the undergrowth, and so it shares. This bottomland forest shares some characteristics with the tropical rainforest I've been in. The main characteristic is that it's pretty open once you get in it, because the canopy prevents a whole lot of undergrowth. And I have to tell you, this is a walk that never has a direct route. I just kind of walk where I want, and eventually I wind up where I want to be. It's dry, so this channel, it's a little muddy, but it's, yeah, there's not much water. So it's going to be easy today to get around. The main factor, instead of water, will be the trees that Hurricane Ida knocked down and the tornadoes the year before knocked down. And you know, these aren't the best conditions for showing you the particular forest that we're going to, because it is a wetland forest, and because it's been dry, you're not seeing a whole lot of water. Right now I'm walking in a channel that, you know, maybe it could hold 2 feet of water. Just like yesterday, I was walking in the creek channel, but yeah, there's no water. That's all right. We'll find something. Man, it is dry back here. There's another slough. All right, well, let's walk up. If I were teaching a geomorphology class, let's walk up on the inner fluve, that high ground between stream channels. All right. Whatever the route is that I've chosen, it's prevented me from having to walk right into a spider web, which is not a great feeling. So, even though it's dry, I'm still enjoying this walk because it's shady and I haven't gotten any spiders in my face yet. I guess I could do a little lecturing. I mentioned on one of my installments that the climax forest that is found in this bottomland environment is called Magnolia Beach and Forest. And here is a magnolia tree, which is kind of interesting because it's become a common yard tree species because it's beautiful. Beautiful blossoms, strong aroma, and it's native to the bottomland forest around here. And we might see a beech. They're easy to pick out in the winter because they keep their leaves on longer than the other. I mean, these are all deciduous trees. Except for the magnolia. It's evergreen. Broadleaf evergreen tree. Kind of exceptional. Maybe I'll show you. See it. Yeah, you can probably see it. That's what I'm talking about, the spider webs that are right at about 5 feet high. Some of them right at 6 feet high, just hit me in the face. I stopped here though, not to walk into this spider's web, but to show you what hurricanes do to my part of Louisiana. Even though we're not on the coast, as I pointed out earlier, tornadoes often spin off of the northeast quadrant of hurricanes. And when they do, they topple trees. And this one, oh, it's a water oak. And they're all over the place. But my brothers and I used to do a firewood operation. And we were thinking, okay, over Christmas, we'll start cutting it up. But there's so many oak trees down in this part of Louisiana, there is no market for firewood. So we didn't invest in any new chainsaws. We didn't do that. All right, then we'll just let those big trees sit, become habitat. Oh, here's another one. Boy, that's a lot of board feet. That's a lot of cords of wood. And this, let's see what kind of tree it is. Looks like it's another one of those water oaks. Yep, it's a water oak. It's still putting out leaves. Those are long, shield-shaped with a three-pointed tip. Oh, wait a minute. I came out on a road already? I got to tell you, the lack of water has... Wait. Now I know where I am. Dang it, I'm way off course. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this around. We're going to go to the swamp a different way. I'll be back with you in just a minute. I haven't gotten turned around like that in a long time. My defense is the lack of water, because I'm used to looking for places to cross those bayous, sloughs, whatever. So I'm taking a different route to that particular forest, and that route has led me out in the open where horseflies have just been getting after me. But I did come upon a more rustic deer blind, and you can see hanging from this tree over here. Let's see if the zoom's working now. Hey now we gotta find it. There, you see hanging from the tree, that's a bucket that's got seed corn in it. And it probably lets it out. Sometimes they have timers. Let out a certain amount of corn just to keep the deer coming back, but don't have them eat all your corn at once. So yeah, this is another example of the sporting hunting life. I'll be back. I started off our trip today by a pond that was a result of my dad starting a small gravel operation about 500 yards off the river, because he couldn't do it right on the river. We didn't want him to do it on the river, and he couldn't because that stretch of the river has been designated wild and scenic. Right now I'm in an environment that was a landscape that was a combination of a river landscape and a gravel mining landscape. In the 1980s, before the river got wild and scenic designation, there was a gravel mining operation here. And just to orient you, I mean, we're not on my grandfather's original farm. We're adjacent to it. But now it is part of our farm. The river is beyond those willow trees. And I'm not going down there, that's nasty. It's beyond those willow trees. We're looking maybe 100 yards. And that's where I don't even know what you call it. The gravel mining operation sucked gravel from a point bar, and it also sucked up water. And the gravel company excavated a place for the water to go. And what they did was, instead of a small pond, they created a lake. which, man, I was so happy when I discovered that there was a lake and it would not involve much trespassing. I mean, it's just 50 yards from the barbed wire fence that marks our property. And water's low right now, but this lake, man, it's become quite an amenity. Water stays cool, so it's great swimming. The river, I mean, it's just not wide enough and deep enough to really have a good time swimming. When my parents took over the place, they bought this property. This is not a natural lake. This was a gravel pit. Well, a pit that was excavated so that water from a gravel operation would collect. And it became a new place for us to swim, new place for us to fish. We did lots of float lines out here. And alligators showed up. It was after a hurricane. I think it might have been after Hurricane Katrina. We got alligators up here. And I mean, we let people use the place, and some of them got all the gear. I call it fish TV. And so they were out there saying, hey, you got big alligators there. And I can't remember who it was. It was a cousin or a friend of a cousin. He got a 15-foot alligator out of this lake. And now it's, he got it. It was taken to a taxidermist, and now it's being displayed in the Bass Pro Shop at a town about 40 miles south of here, maybe 30 miles south of here. So that's kind of cool. I haven't swum in a little while. I don't know if it's because of the alligators. I just don't do it. You look at the sky. Let's see, we're at 9:15, and the clouds are already forming. Cumulus clouds. It's gonna be a good day. We're in a dynamic riverine landscape, but the sky's pretty dynamic right now because we've got, we're starting to get persistent coastal breezes that bring in humid air from the Gulf of Mexico. Moist air, warm moist air. Doesn't have to be lifted much. You get cumulus clouds that start forming real early in the day. And so by the afternoon, if you're out working, you get a break when the cloud blocks the sun. And if you're really lucky, and I'm hoping that happens today, you get a really strong storm, like the kind that drops 2 inches in the space, not a storm, isolated thunderstorm. In the space of an hour, you might get 2 inches of rain. And I really would like for it to happen today, because yesterday, after I filmed our little clay loop, took y'all to the little Grand Canyon, I went and helped my brother where we're changing the, let's see, it's probably breaking the law, but we did it. We're changing the course of a creek that is next to my mama's house, because it wants to cut into her yard. And so I found a place at Christmas where we could cut and get rid of that, change the course so it's not cutting into our yard. And so yesterday I was down in the muddy creek with a shovel and a chainsaw, creating a clear path. So when we do have a big storm, the waters don't come and cut my mom's yard away. But I need to see a big rainfall to see if we've engineered it correctly. My little brother, he's an environmental geochemist. He knows about state laws, and he says, I don't want to know what y'all did. But I do want to see if what we did worked. Now, this was supposed to be the end of the trip, but because I got lost, we're gonna take a different route to this forest that I think is kind of cool looking. So, goodbye to lake landscape, gravel pit landscape. And let's go get back in the bottomland heart. But boy, it's in the bottomland hardwoods. But man, there's a breeze. Got clouds. Really ought to get one of those boats. A kayak would be better. And just get out in the lake. Nah, we got to go in the forest. I'll see you in a little bit. Well, that's nice. I found it. Forest is behind me, but it's not the best conditions for viewing it because there's just a lack of water. But it's a cypress forest. This cypress forest would look so much more intriguing if there was water, because you would see these really straight deciduous conifers, the bald cypress. They call it a bald cypress because, similar to a larch, it's an exceptional conifer in that it's not evergreen. It has a bare season in the winter. And it would be in standing water where the trunk flares out. And you would see the cypress knees sitting in water. And these cypress knees, well, they help aerate the tree because it's growing in an aquatic environment. But my mother said that it's been dry. Mama don't lie. But instead of going through mud and water, we're walking through knee-high grass. Ooh, maybe we see some snakes though. That'd be kind of fun. All right, well now I gotta pay attention. This forest is, it's in the lowest elevation, the wettest part of the bottomland forest. And it includes bald cypress and Tupelo gum. Some people call it a Tupelo gum forest. Boy, that's a shame. I should get my brother out here with a weed whacker so he could show y'all. He could make it look like it's supposed to look. But there you see the cypress knees, but they're supposed to be in standing water. It looks like, I don't know, some holy men in robes standing at attention beneath the forest giant. Getting carried away. All right, let's just walk through here and I'll say whatever comes to mind. And basically it's gonna be, man, it is dry. For those of y'all who are already geography department members or geography majors, you might have come to the crawfish boil that I host. Got to do the first one about a month ago. Crawfish are native to down here, and that's a crawfish tower. And if I were to dig down, I could find some crawfish, but I don't have a shovel, and I'm here for walking, and the bugs, they're going to town on me. I was reviewing the stuff that I shot in the Creek channel yesterday, and man, I should have just shut up because there were so many bird calls that while I was doing it, I didn't even pay attention to it, but it was glorious. Down here, you can hear birds. Hopefully you're hearing the buzzing, because I'm really making a sacrifice today. There's bigger horseflies out here by the river. I'm relearning protection measures. They seem simple, but they're important. Horseflies their bite really hurts. And I always wear a hat, but I pulled my hat down so the top of the hat was touching my scalp. That was a mistake, because a horsefly can land on your hat, you don't feel it, and it can bite you through the cloth if the cloth is touching your scalp. Happened once, like, oh, that's right. Yeah, you gotta leave a little space. I gotta quit saying this would really be something, but this would really be something if it was a regular rainfall year. It would be more difficult walking because I'd be trying to stay on dry ground. But man, I'm just walking among the cypress knees. Walking among the cypress. Here I got two trunks for you. The one on the left, that's a Tupelo gum. And the one on the right is bald cypress. You see how they've got kind of a similar flare at the base? The cypress is more indented at its base than the Tupelo gum. But they grow together in the same really wet forest. All right, let's keep walking. Try not to trip over the knees. Cypress is, its wood is valued by woodworkers. Partly because it's easily worked and it's a durable wood. Many of Louisiana's cypress forest, big stands, were commercially logged. And this is like the swamps outside of New Orleans, which used to be old growth cypress. But it got cleared. But now there's scuba divers who, man, they die. This is a mess. Wait a minute, almost seeing water. They dive in swamps and bayous where they knew that commercial logging of cypress forest had occurred, and they're looking for cypress logs that have sunk. And often oh, yeah, there's some water, finally. Man, this thing's supposed to be, it's supposed to be like 3 feet higher water. All right, back on topic. So they go scuba diving in that really dark water, looking for cypress logs, and every log would have a stamp on the end of it to identify which company had cut it. And so when they pull up a log that maybe was cut down 80 years ago, and it includes a stamp, they can charge more for that log. Oh, I wonder if this shows up. So one of the nice things about walking back here on the farm is I run into traces of my grandfather. In this case, the trace is this barbed wire fence, which used to mark the southern boundary of his farm. And here he's, instead of using a fence post, what kind of tree is this? Boy, it sure looks like he used a Tupelo gum. Of course, the trees growing around the barbed wire. And yeah, it's just a little treat to be thinking, wow, 80 years ago, 85 years ago, probably in the winter, my grandfather was out here checking his boundaries. So everybody knew what was theirs and what wasn't theirs. I'm in some soft mud, not slippery. And there's, similar to yesterday, there's lots of animal tracks and little crawfish holes. So you can see, oh yeah, all around that kind of star-shaped twig, you can see tracks for, we got coons, deer, squirrels, bobcats. There's a little crawfish tower. Speaking of my grandfather, we've talked about resources and land use on this farm. Well, another tree downed by a hurricane or a tornado. This part of my grandfather's farm, this is not a road, remember. I'm walking on the bottom of a bayou because it's so dry here right now. Even though, man, it is, this would be a place to find snakes. Well, focus. This part of the farm was, it was also a resource for my grandfather. He was an avid hunter. He kept hunting dogs, and the hunting dogs were, let's see, what did he do with his hunting dogs? Well, they fox hunted. That's kind of weird. I never quite got into that kind of hunting because they never killed the fox. They just like to listen to their dogs chase the fox. And so I went with him a couple times, and it was just a group of 2, 3, 4 guys sitting on a gravel road listening to dogs bark and then talking about, oh yeah, that's Lukey. Oh yeah, Lukey's tracked him. And they drank coffee and chewed tobacco. It was kind of weird hunting. He also used his dogs to hunt raccoons. He loved raccoon. And he'd come back here to hunt coons. He hunts squirrels, which are about 1/2 the size of the big gray squirrels we got in Chico. That's a nice shot. It would be an even nicer shot if we had about 2 feet of water. But stay focused. No, the bottomland hardwood forest was a hunting resource for my grandfather. In the winter, if there's water, he would hunt migratory waterfowl, wood ducks. You get mallards. Of course, he fished in the river. I used to set traps with him, and we did pretty good, catching mainly blue cat, which is a real good catfish. What else did he hunt back here? Deer hunting was not a thing for my grandfather, and my mother has explained that nobody hunted deer when she was growing up. That's something that really started with agriculture shifting from cotton and corn to, look at those frogs. Another casualty of a hurricane. Ooh. That's a lot of soil those things pull up. When land use changed from actually growing crops like corn and cotton to growing pine forest, that's when deer really showed up. And so these people who lease this land for hunting, they're not here to hunt coons or squirrels. They don't go fox hunting. They're here to hunt deer, which was, that's just not something my grandfather did. I don't think he ever killed a deer. Not because he had anything against it, but because there weren't any deer here. He also hunted turkeys. And he was, oops, just walked into a spider web. He was, when he got older, and he quit hunting, he would still call them. He had a little cedar box that had a sort of a, we call it a tongue, that he would scrape across the top of the box. The box is about 2 inches by 4 inches, and he would scrape that tongue across the top, and it would make a sound like turkeys. And he could call turkeys down out of the pine woods so he could see them in the pasture. And he wasn't gonna shoot them. He killed plenty of them. He just wanted to see them and wanted to see if he could still call them. So, yeah, we're walking in what was a hunting resource region for my grandfather. And I'm really glad that my folks, when they took control of the place, didn't log it. Because they had timber consultants telling them, clear that bottomwood forest, put pines in it. And we were like, come on. And they cleared a little bit of it, but not all of it. One reason we didn't want it logged was because these hardwood forests take a long time to grow. Oh, no, it's not a beech tree. Wait a minute, yeah, it's a beech tree. Oh, this is another one of the trees for which this forest is named. We've kind of climbed out of the cypress forest, which is a linear forest, follows the lines of the bayous and sloughs. And now we're back into the beech magnolia forest. Oh, and there's a road. Cool, maybe I'll find out where I am. Oh man, what's this all about? Well, nothing wrong with finding a road and seeing where it leads. But I would like to get back to the car. Yeah, I drove down here. I know, that's weak. But, ow! Horsefly just got me on the head. Gotta readjust my hat. I think this is gonna bring us right to the eastern edge of that little pond that I started today at. And when I get back to the house, I am gonna wash off my lower legs because much of that green undergrowth is just a carpet of poison ivy. And I'm not allergic to it, but I don't like challenging or testing my immunity. It's kind of foolhardy. Ooh, there's some nice deer tracks. Yeah. Yep. But like I said, oh, there's even there's a crawfish tower too. Those crawfish towers give you some idea of how high the water table is, because those crawfish, they want to be estivating in water. So where you see a crawfish tower, basically you're looking at a high water table, which means that you don't have to dig too far before you hit water. All right. I feel like I'm cheating by taking this road instead of navigating through the bottomland hardwood forest. But I am kind of waiting to see if my brother's going to show up and we get to go sane. So maybe all this dead wood laying around in this forest will lead to a bumper crop of mushrooms. You know, those old tree trunks being a substrate. In 10 or 15 years, of course, for mushrooms. That'd be nice. But we sure can't sell them for firewood. Oh, speaking of firewood, I've been talking mostly about how hot it is. We get freezes down here. It gets cold, and it's a wet cold. So, humid air with a real low temperature. Hey, here's the pond. My dad's small gravel operation. It's a lot different than that lake where that alligator was. All right, what was I talking about? Yep, it happened. You forgot. Well, probably wasn't that important. Oh, it gets cold. We get fronts that come from the west during the late fall, winter, early spring. And those things are cold. A lot of these houses are up off the ground down here. And yeah, firewood. Yeah, folks use it to heat their house. They got fireplaces. One of my brothers and I, we ran a firewood business out here for at least 1 year. It might have been 2 years. I think I was a college dropout at that point, and he was getting ready to start law school. And we got permission from my grandfather. Actually, we were cutting this general area. And then we'd sell cords of firewood down in Baton Rouge. So yeah, it gets cold here. And so that's why there's a firewood market. But not when a hurricane's knocked down a bunch of oak trees and people already had to get them cut off of their roofs. Well, we're gonna stop this one. I think there's one more place I'm gonna bring you. And then hopefully my brother shows up and we get to go fishing.